A queen bee does not choose to be queen. She is born into it. Her body is different. Her purpose is encoded in her cells before she takes her first breath. She does not wonder what she should do with her life. She does not scroll through options. She does not feel paralyzed by possibility. She knows. The worker bees know too. They are smaller. Their bodies are built for labor, for gathering, for serving the hive. They do not resent this. They do not dream of being queen. The question of purpose does not torture them because the answer was never in doubt. Humans are not bees. We are not born with our purpose stamped on our bodies. We do not emerge from childhood with a clear role, a defined function, a place in the hive that was prepared for us. We are thrown into the world with possibility instead of certainty, with freedom instead of fate. And this freedom, which sounds like a gift, often feels like a curse, because somewhere inside you there is a shape, a direction, a gravity that pulls you toward one thing and away from another. You have felt it in the moments when time disappeared because you were doing something that fit. In the envy you felt watching someone else do the thing you secretly wanted to do. In the depression that descended when you realized you were building someone else's dream instead of your own. Most people spend their lives ignoring this gravity, fighting it, pretending it does not exist. They tell themselves they are being practical. They tell themselves they are being responsible. They tell themselves that purpose is a luxury for people with trust funds and safety nets. And then they wonder why they feel like they are floating, why success feels empty, why they wake up at 3 a.m. with a weight on their chest that has no name. The envy you feel is not random. It is not petty. It is not the kind that wants someone else to fail so you can feel better about your own stagnation. It is the other kind, the kind that feels like a knife in your chest, the kind that keeps you awake at night, the kind that makes you unable to be happy for someone else's success, no matter how hard you try. This envy is not a sin. It is a symptom. It is your unlived life screaming at you through the bars of a cage you built yourself. You envy specifically, surgically. You envy the writer, but not the surgeon, the entrepreneur, but not the academic, the musician, but not the athlete. Your envy has a pattern, and the pattern is a map. The things you envy are the things you were supposed to do. The people you envy are the people you were supposed to become. Your resentment is not about them. It is about the distance between who you are and who you know you could be. I learned this the hard way. For years, I told myself I did not want to create. I told myself I was practical, analytical, suited for stable work and predictable outcomes. I built a life around this story. I got good at it. I was comfortable. But every time I saw someone making something, a film, a book, a piece of music, something in me would clench. I would feel a flash of heat, a tightness in my throat. I would tell myself it was judgment, that their work was not that good, that I could do better if I wanted to. If I wanted to. That phrase was the key. I could do better if I wanted to. But I did not want to. I did not want to, because wanting to would mean admitting that I had been lying to myself, that the practical life I had built was not a choice, but an escape, that I was not suited for stability. I was hiding in it. The envy was not about them. It was about the version of myself I had refused to become. And every time I saw someone else living that version, I was reminded of my own betrayal. The psychologist Abraham Maslow identified something he called the Jonah complex. The name comes from the biblical story. Jonah was a prophet who received a calling from God. Go to Nineveh, God said. deliver my message. But Jonah did not want to go. He ran, he boarded a ship heading in the opposite direction. He tried to sail away from his own destiny, and he ended up in the belly of a whale. Maslow noticed that many of his patients were doing the same thing. They were running from their callings, not because they doubted their abilities, but because they feared what their abilities would demand of them. They were afraid of their own potential. This sounds paradoxical. Why would anyone fear greatness? Why would anyone run from the thing they most want? But think about what greatness actually requires. It requires you to stand out, to be different, to separate yourself from the people around you. It requires you to risk rejection, humiliation, failure on a scale that ordinary ambition never approaches. It requires you to sacrifice comfort, security, the easy warmth of fitting in. Greatness is lonely. Greatness is dangerous. Greatness makes you a target. And your brain, the ancient reptile brain that has kept your ancestors alive for millions of years, knows this. It knows that standing out gets you killed. It knows that the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. It knows that the safest place is in the middle of the herd, invisible, unremarkable, alive. So when you feel the pull towards something greater, your brain sounds the alarm. It floods you with fear. It whispers that you are not ready, not good enough, not the right person. It invents 1,000 reasons to stay small, and you listen. Because the fear feels like wisdom. Because the voice sounds like your own. But it is not wisdom. It is survival instinct misapplied. You are not on the savannah. You are not going to be eaten by lions if you publish the book, start the company, make the art. You might be criticized, you might be rejected, you might fail publicly, but you will not die. The Jonah complex is the confusion between social death and actual death. Your brain cannot tell the difference. It treats a bad review like a predator attack. It treats rejection like exile from the tribe, which, for your ancestors, was a death sentence. And so, you run. You board the ship, heading in the opposite direction. You tell yourself you are being practical, responsible, realistic, and you end up in the belly of the whale. There is a phenomenon in social psychology called the tall poppy syndrome. The name comes from a story about an ancient king who was asked how to control a newly conquered city. Instead of answering directly, he walked through a field of poppies and silently cut off all the tallest ones, leaving only the short ones standing. The message was clear: eliminate anyone who rises above the rest. This is what groups do to individuals who threaten to become exceptional. They cut them down, not always with violence, usually with something subtler: ridicule, exclusion, the raised eyebrow, the whispered doubt, the question that sounds like concern but feels like sabotage. Are you sure you should be doing this? Your tribe does not want you to become great. Your tribe wants you to stay like them. Because when you rise, you become a mirror. You reflect back to them everything they failed to attempt. Your success is an accusation they never asked to receive. So they pull you back. They remind you of your failures. They tell you to be realistic. They express worry about your stability, your finances, your mental health. They do this with love sometimes. They do this believing they are helping, but they are not helping. They are protecting themselves from the discomfort of your transformation. I have felt this, the subtle cooling of friendships when I started doing the work I actually wanted to do. The way certain people stopped calling, stopped inviting, stopped being interested in my life. I did not change my behavior toward them. I did not become arrogant or distant. I simply started building something, and the building itself was enough to create distance. Because building something means you have stopped waiting, and people who are still waiting do not want to be reminded that waiting is a choice. This is one of the hidden costs of purpose, not just the work itself, the loneliness, the gradual exodus of people who needed you to stay small so they could feel comfortable in their own smallness. You will have to choose being loved for who you pretend to be, or being respected for who you actually are. Most people choose love. Most people choose the tribe. Most people stay in the field with the other poppies, never growing tall enough to be cut. And then they wonder why they feel so short. In 1996, the psychologist James Hillman proposed something he called the acorn theory. The idea is simple but radical. You are born with an image of your future self already inside you. Just as an acorn contains the oak tree it will become, you contain the person you are meant to become. Your life is not a blank slate to be written by experience. It is a seed trying to unfold. The Greeks called it the daemon, of a kind of spirit or genius that accompanies each person from birth, guiding them toward their fate. The Romans called it the genius. Other cultures have other names, but the idea is consistent across time and place. You are not just your circumstances. You are not just your choices. There is something in you that precedes both. This is uncomfortable for modern ears. We like to believe we are self-made, that we choose our identities, that we can become anything we want through effort and will. But Hillman asked a different question. What if you are not choosing your calling? What if your calling is choosing you? He studied the biographies of exceptional people and found patterns that could not be explained by environment alone. Mozart composing at 4, Picasso drawing before he could speak, mathematicians who saw numbers as colors before anyone taught them what numbers were. These were not skills developed through practice. They were recognitions, the child recognizing something that was already inside them. The acorn recognizing the oak it was meant to become. And Hillman noticed something else. When people ignored their acorn, when they tried to become something other than what they were, they suffered. Not just emotionally, physically. They developed symptoms, addictions, neuroses, what he called accidents of the soul. The unlived life does not simply disappear, it festers. It expresses itself in sideways ways. In the drink you need every night to quiet the voice. In the rage that erupts at small provocations. In the depression that has no obvious cause but never quite lifts. I knew a man once who was born to make music. Everyone who knew him young said the same thing. He had something, a gift, a way of hearing the world that other people could not hear. But his father wanted him to be practical. His family needed stability, so he became an accountant. He was good at it. He made money. He built a reasonable life, and he drank every night, not enough to destroy his career, just enough to quiet the thing inside him that would not stop singing, just enough to silence the voice that kept asking why he was counting other people's money instead of making the music that only he could make. He is still alive. He is still drinking. He is still wondering why his life feels like a prison sentence he cannot remember receiving. This is what Hillman meant by accidents of the soul, not dramatic breakdowns, quiet suffocations, lives that look fine from the outside, but feel like slow deaths from the inside. The acorn that is not allowed to become an oak does not simply wait, it rots. Charles Bukowski spent most of his life in poverty. He worked at the post office for over a decade, sorting mail, hating every minute. He drank constantly. He lived in cheap apartments. He had no security, no status, no visible success. But every night, after work, he wrote. Not because he thought it would make him famous. Not because he had a plan. He wrote because he could not stop. The writing was a compulsion, a sickness, something that possessed him whether he wanted it or not. On his gravestone, there are 2 words: don't try. This is often misunderstood as laziness, as giving up, but Bukowski meant the opposite. He meant that if you have to try, if you have to force it, if you have to convince yourself to do the work, then it is not your work. The real work does not feel like trying. It feels like necessity. It feels like something that will happen whether you cooperate or not. Bukowski did not try to be a writer. He was a writer. The writing came out of him like a sickness, like a need, like breathing. He could not have stopped if he wanted to. This is the difference between ambition and calling. Ambition is something you pursue. It lives in the future. It requires motivation, discipline, willpower. It can be abandoned when the costs become too high. Calling is something that pursues you. It lives in the present. It does not care about your motivation. It does not negotiate with your willpower. It simply is. And if you abandon it, it does not disappear. It haunts you. Vincent van Gogh did not start painting until he was 27. Before that, he failed at everything he tried. He failed as an art dealer. He failed as a teacher. He failed as a preacher. He was awkward, intense, difficult to be around. He burned through relationships like matches. When he finally started painting, no one cared. He sold 1 painting in his entire life. 1. He was mocked by critics, ignored by the public, dependent on his brother for money. He lived in poverty. He struggled with mental illness. He cut off part of his own ear. And he painted every day, obsessively, compulsively. He produced over 2,000 works in a decade. Not because he believed in success, not because he had a business plan, because he could not stop. In a letter to his brother, he wrote, "I put my heart and soul into my work, and I have lost my mind in the process." This is what calling looks like from the inside, not a path to success, not a career strategy, a compulsion, a sickness, something that demands everything and promises nothing in return. Van Gogh died at 37, likely by suicide. He never saw his fame. He never knew that his paintings would sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. He never knew that he would be considered one of the greatest artists in human history. He only knew that he had to paint, that the painting was more important than the painter, that the work would continue whether he was rewarded for it or not. This is the cost. This is what the inspirational quotes leave out. Purpose is not a warm feeling. It is a demanding master. It takes everything and gives nothing back except the work itself. And yet Van Gogh's letters are not the letters of a miserable man. They are the letters of someone who found something worth suffering for. Someone who knew, even in his darkest moments, that he was doing what he was meant to do, that knowing is rare, that knowing is precious, that knowing might be worth everything it costs. But let me be honest about what purpose actually costs. Purpose is not free. It is not something you add to an already full life. It is something that displaces other things, good things, things that matter. Van Gogh did not have a family. He did not have stable relationships. He did not have the ordinary pleasures that make ordinary life bearable. He had the painting. The painting was enough for him. But it was not enough for a human life in the conventional sense. The dom is a pathologia, a pathology. To develop one part of yourself to extraordinary levels, Other parts must be neglected. The bodybuilder who develops massive arms does so at a cost to the rest of his body. The heart works harder. The joints suffer. The balance is destroyed. The same is true of gifts. The writer who writes 5 hours a day is not spending those hours with friends, with family, with the ordinary maintenance of human relationships. The entrepreneur who builds a company is not present for the small moments that make up a life. The artist who perfects her craft is sacrificing the breadth of experience for the depth of one experience. This is the law of equivalent exchange. You cannot have everything. To have one thing fully, you must give up other things. I do not say this to discourage you. I say this because the inspirational literature leaves it out. It shows you the glory without showing you the cost. It shows you Mozart without showing you his poverty, his illness, his early death. It shows you the oak without showing you the acorn crushed in the soil. If you have a calling, you have to know what you are signing up for. You have to make the choice with open eyes. Because the worst outcome is not paying the price for your purpose. The worst outcome is paying the price for someone else's purpose. Sacrificing everything for a goal that was never really yours. Your value in the world is a function of two things: scarcity and demand. If you can do something that few people can do, and if many people want that thing done, you will be valued. If you can only do things that everyone can do, or if no one wants what you offer, you will struggle. Most people try to be good at things that many people are good at. They follow the obvious paths. They develop the skills that schools teach and jobs require. They become interchangeable. And then they wonder why they feel replaceable. The alternative is to become unreplaceable, not by being the best at something common, but by being the only one at something uncommon. Not by climbing a ladder that everyone else is climbing, but by building a ladder that only you can build. Your uniqueness is not in any single skill. It is in the intersection of your skills, your experiences, your obsessions, your peculiarities. It is in the combination that only you possess. The queen bee is valuable because there is only one of her. The workers are interchangeable because there are thousands of them. This is not the queen's moral superiority. It is her structural position. She fills a role that no one else can fill. What role can you fill that no one else can fill? The deepest scarcity, the most unreplaceable thing about you, is probably the thing you have been hiding. The strange thing, the embarrassing thing, the thing that does not fit the paths that were laid out for you. That thing is your value. That thing is the queen bee inside you, waiting to be acknowledged. But I need to address the shadow side of everything I have been saying, because it would be easy to hear all this and feel worse than before, to feel like you are failing not just at life, but at the much more important task of finding your purpose. To add, discover my calling to the list of things you are supposed to do and have not done. So let me be clear, not everyone has a singular, overwhelming calling. Not everyone is meant to be Van Gogh or Bukowski. Not everyone has an acorn that demands to become a mighty oak. Some people are meant to be grass, not in a diminished way, in the way that grass covers the earth, holds the soil together, feeds the animals, makes life possible for everything else. Grass is not less important than oaks. It is differently important. The tyranny of purpose can become its own kind of prison. The demand that everyone find their passion, monetize their gifts, become exceptional. This is exhausting. This is impossible for most people. And this is, frankly, not what most people actually need. What most people need is not a calling. It is a craft, something they can get good at, something that contributes, something that connects them to other people and to the larger project of being human. The difference between calling and craft is intensity. A calling demands everything. A craft asks for your best effort, but allows you to have a life outside it. A calling is Van Gogh. A craft is the carpenter who builds good chairs and goes home to his family. Both are valid. Both are necessary. Both are ways of being fully human. The question is, which one you are? And the only way to answer that question is to pay attention to what your life is telling you. If you feel haunted by something unlived, if the envy cuts like a knife, if you cannot escape the sense that you are betraying yourself every day, you might have a calling, and you might need to answer it. But if your life feels good enough, if you can take pleasure in ordinary things, if you do not feel the pull of an unrealized destiny, you might not have a calling, and that is fine. You can still build a good life. You can still matter. You can still be grass. The problem is not having or not having a calling. The problem is pretending. Pretending you do not have one when you do, or pretending you do have one when you do not. Both pretenses lead to suffering. Both are forms of lying to yourself. How do you know which one you are? How do you distinguish between a calling you are avoiding and a fantasy you are indulging? This is the hardest question, and I do not have a clean answer, but I have some tests that might help. The first test is necessity. Does the thing feel like something you want to do, or something you have to do? Wants can be abandoned when they become inconvenient. Musts cannot. If you could walk away from it without feeling like you were dying, it might be a want. If walking away feels like self-murder, it might be a must. The second test is recurrence. Does the thing keep coming back? Wants tend to fade when circumstances change. Musts survive everything. They show up in your dreams. They ambush you in quiet moments. They refuse to stay buried, no matter how many times you try to bury them. The third test is the envy test. Do you feel a specific, surgical envy when you see someone else doing the thing? The envy I described earlier, the kind that feels like a wound, not a preference. That envy is information. It is pointing at something real. The fourth test is sacrifice. Are you willing to give up other things for this thing? Not in theory, in practice. Have you already given things up? Calling demands sacrifice. If you are not sacrificing, you might be fantasizing. The fifth test is Bukowski's test. Are you trying, or are you being compelled? Trying requires willpower. Compulsion happens despite willpower. If you have to motivate yourself constantly, convince yourself daily, it might not be your thing. If it happens whether you feel motivated or not, it might be. None of these tests are definitive. You can fail all of them and still have a calling. You can pass all of them and still be fooling yourself. But they are places to start. They are questions to sit with. And sitting with questions, honestly, without rushing to answers, is itself a form of practice. It is how you learn to hear the voice beneath the noise. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "Become who you are." This sounds simple. It is the hardest thing in the world, because becoming who you are requires knowing who you are. And knowing who you are requires stripping away everything you have been told to be. Every expectation, every role, every identity that was handed to you by family, culture, circumstance. Underneath all of that, there is something, a shape, a direction, a self that is not constructed but given, a self that you did not choose but that chose you. This self is not always convenient. It is not always what you would have picked. It might make your life harder. It might alienate people you love. It might demand sacrifices you do not want to make. But it is you, the only you there is, the you that will still be there when everything else has been stripped away. Nietzsche called this amor fati, love of fate, the willingness to embrace everything about yourself, including the parts you wish were different. Not saying everything about you is fine. Saying everything about you is material. Everything can be worked with. Everything can be transformed. But the transformation has to start from what is actually there, not from what you wish was there, from the actual messy, contradictory, difficult self that wakes up in your body every morning. That self has a direction. It has been trying to tell you something for years. Are you listening? We live in a time of unprecedented possibility. You can learn almost anything online. You can start almost any kind of business. You can reach almost any audience. The barriers that used to keep people in their place have fallen. But we also live in a time of unprecedented distraction. The same technologies that enable creation also enable consumption. The same platforms that could amplify your voice are designed to steal your attention. The same freedom that makes anything possible makes it easy to do nothing. And we live in a time of unprecedented comparison. You can see every day people living the lives you want to live. You can watch their success in real time. You can measure yourself against the best in the world, not just the best in your village. This combination, possibility, distraction, comparison, creates a particular kind of paralysis. You know you could do more. You see others doing more, but you cannot seem to start. The gap between where you are and where you could be feels too large. And so you scroll instead. You consume instead. You watch other people live the life you are not living. This is not a failure of character. It is a failure of environment. The systems around you are optimized to keep you consuming, not creating. To capture your attention, not to help you focus it. To find your purpose in this environment requires resistance. Resistance to the pull of distraction. Resistance to the comfort of consumption. Resistance to the voices that tell you to be practical, to wait, to settle. The calling is still there, but its voice is harder to hear through the noise, and the effort required to hear it is greater than it has ever been. Franz Kafka worked at an insurance company. Every day he went to an office and processed claims and dealt with bureaucracy. He hated it. It drained him. It felt like a slow death. But every night after work, he wrote. He wrote stories about men who wake up as insects, about trials that never end, about castles that can never be reached. He wrote about alienation and absurdity and the impossibility of understanding the world or being understood by it. He did not publish much in his lifetime. He was not famous. When he died at 40 of tuberculosis, he asked his friend Max Brod to burn all his manuscripts. Brod did not burn them. He published them. And Kafka became one of the most influential writers of the 20th century. Kafka did not become Kafka during his lifetime. He became Kafka after. The work survived him. The work found its audience decades after he stopped writing. This is not a story about delayed success. It is a story about doing the work anyway. Kafka did not write because he expected to be famous. He wrote because he was compelled to write. The writing was the point, not the recognition. The process was the purpose, not the outcome. He had found his calling, and he answered it night after night, despite the exhaustion, despite the illness, despite the certainty that no one would care. Here is what I have come to believe. You have something in you that wants to live. Call it a calling, an acorn, a purpose. Call it whatever you want. The name does not matter. What matters is the reality. There is something in you that knows what you should be doing. It has been telling you for years. It speaks through envy and depression and the restlessness that no success ever quite cures. It speaks through the dreams you are embarrassed to admit and the fantasies you dismiss as unrealistic. You can ignore this voice. Most people do. You can build a reasonable life, a comfortable life, a life that makes sense to everyone around you. You can fit in, you can be loved, you can be safe, but you will not be you. And at some point, usually in the middle of the night, usually when you are alone, you will feel the weight of that. The grief for the person you did not become. The mourning for the life you did not live. This grief does not go away. You cannot outrun it. You cannot drink it away, or work it away, or distract it away. It waits. Patient. Permanent. The ghost of your unlived life, sitting at the foot of your bed. So here is my question to you. What are you running from? What is the thing you will not let yourself want? The dream you dismiss as impractical? The envy you refuse to examine because examining it would mean admitting what you already know? You do not have to answer this question publicly. You do not have to tell anyone. But you have to answer it privately. You have to at least be honest with yourself. Change does not happen through understanding. You can understand everything I have said and still not change. Understanding is not enough. Insight is not enough. Knowing what you should do is not the same as doing it. Change happens through action. Small actions, repeated. Actions that move you toward the thing you are avoiding. You do not have to quit your job tomorrow. You do not have to announce your calling to the world. You do not have to make any dramatic gestures. You just have to start. Quietly, daily, in whatever time you can steal from the life you are currently living. Write the page. Make the sketch. Have the conversation. Build the thing. Give it an hour. Give it a corner of your life. Give it space to exist. This is not glamorous. This is Bukowski at the post office, writing at night despite the exhaustion. This is Kafka in his room, scratching out pages that no one will read for decades. This is Van Gogh in his poverty, painting because he cannot stop. They did not know they would be remembered. They only knew that the work was theirs to do, and so they did it. The acorn does not know it will become an oak. It only knows it must grow. It pushes against the soil. It reaches toward the light. It does what acorns do, without guarantee, without certainty. You are the acorn. The oak is inside you. It has been there since the beginning, waiting for you to stop running, waiting for you to give it permission to grow. The soil is hard. The light is far away. There are 1,000 reasons not to start, but the acorn grows anyway. That is what acorns do, and somewhere beneath all the fear and the doubt and the reasonable objections, that is what you do too. You grow towards something, toward the shape that was always yours. The queen bee knows her role from birth. You have to discover yours. But discovery is not passive. It is not waiting for the answer to arrive. It is moving toward the question. It is doing the thing that scares you. It is following the envy to its source. Your purpose is not hiding from you. You are hiding from it. And the hiding can end whenever you decide it ends.